The match page contains a lot of useful information about an upcoming tennis match. In this video, we'll use the Madrid final between Sinner and Zverev to show you what's included. First, you'll see the prediction. This is generated automatically for all ATP and WTA matches using all the available data we have. However, it should only be used as a guideline. Don't follow the predictions blindly. Use all the information on the page to make your own judgment. Our model predicts the match winner, the first set winner, and also assesses the risk of an upset. It also explains the reasoning behind each choice so you can understand why a certain prediction was made. Next, you'll find the AI prompt designed specifically for that match. I explain this feature in more detail in another video on this channel, but it's very useful and can help you analyze the match more deeply. Next, we have the overall player performance points. This can be a little harder to explain quickly, but there is full documentation for it on the site. The basic idea is that every player we track starts from 0 in 2021. This gives the system enough matches to calibrate both newer players and older players who are still active on tour. From there, each player earns points based on their performance, but they can also lose points through penalties after losses. The system is very granular, with different point values for ATP and WTA main tour events, challengers, and different tournament tiers. You can check these points across all surfaces and all time frames, or filter them separately. For example, here you can see that Sinner was not as strong on clay a few years ago compared to Zverev, but season by season, he continued to improve. Each clay season, or any other surface season, is usually separated by a flat line, which means either no matches or a period with poor form. This is explained in more detail on the website. If we switch to clay and look at the last 18 months, Zverev is still above Sinner. But below the graph, you can see how many points each player gained during that period, and Sinner gained around twice as many points as Zverev. If we look only at the current clay season, Zverev is still above Sinner because he is carrying over strong performances from previous seasons. But again, Sinner is gaining points at a much faster rate. Then we can move to the second chart, which focuses only on the current season. In this chart, every player starts from 0. Here, you can clearly see Sinner's dominance across all levels, with Zverev still performing well, but sitting far behind. The season chart is updated daily, so it can be very useful for regular ATP and WTA matches, especially at challenger level. Once you learn how to read these graphs, you will quickly understand how useful they can be. Next up is the player's head-to-head props finder. This section appears only when the two players have met before. The more direct matches they have played, the more useful the tool becomes. In this example, we have 13 previous meetings, which is more than enough to work with. Here, you can enter a bookmaker line, such as 0.5 or 2.5, and see how often the over or under happened in their head-to-head matches. You can use this for aces, double faults, break points, player games, or total match games. You can also filter the data further by tournament, match type, and surface. For this match, we are particularly interested in Sinner converting over 2.5 breakpoints. As you can see, this happened in both best-of-3 matches they played on clay. But if we switch to all surfaces, keep only best-of-3 matches, and reduce the sample to the last 8 meetings, all won by Sinner, the trend is not as strongly supported. In that filtered sample, it went over in only 43% of their matches. So that is a warning sign. You can play around with the tool and test different lines and filters. It is very useful when you are trying to decide which player props are worth considering. Next, we have the head-to-head statistics section. This includes a lot of useful data, starting with player-based stats such as serve numbers, return numbers, and other performance indicators. After that, you will find the pressure points assessment, which is especially important because it shows how the players performed in key moments. Then there is the yield section, which focuses mostly on betting-related information. The second head-to-head section goes even deeper. It includes data about games, sets, deciding sets, tie breaks, and how the matches were won. For example, whether a player won in straight sets or needed a decider. For ATP matches, this data is also split between best-of-3 and best-of-5 formats, which makes the comparison more accurate depending on the type of match you are analyzing. The head-to-head stats do not stop there. Next, you will see another section that you can usually ignore, because it is basically the same information as the head-to-head props finder we covered earlier. The only difference is that here, the data is presented in table format instead of through the interactive tool. Next is the player form section. This section shows both players side by side, comparing their current season form and their last 10 matches form. The data is also split by surface and tournament type, which helps you understand how each player is performing in similar conditions. It includes the same type of stats you saw in the head-to-head section, such as serve stats, return stats, pressure points, games, sets, tie breaks, and other key performance indicators. The difference is that these are not direct head-to-head stats. These are broader form stats based on each player's recent matches and season performance. Now we get to the betting stats section. Here you can compare both players side by side across different betting markets, such as aces over and under, breakpoints, double faults, player games, and total match games. You can find almost the same stats on each player's individual page, which is covered in a separate video on this channel. The advantage of the player page is the visual presentation and the fact that it is easier to filter the data. The downside is that you can only analyze one player at a time, not compare both players side by side. On the match page, you get the standard split by surface and tournament type, so you can quickly compare how both players perform in similar conditions. This makes it pretty easy to spot where overs and unders are happening and where certain betting lines may or may not be supported by the data. Finally, the match page ends with a detailed breakdown of the time spent on court by both players, followed by the match odds. So by the end of the match page, you have a full picture: prediction, performance points, head-to-head stats, form, betting trends, physical load, and odds. Taken together, all of this can help you make a much more informed judgment before the match.